Good evening. It's 2100 UTC on this Sunday, 13th of October, 3305. I'm your host, Jeff Ryan, and welcome to the Prismatic Congress. The Prismatic Congress is a broadcast by the Prismatic Imperium based in Cubio, an active player group that makes up part of the Ashling Duval community and specializing in role-playing. First, the general news. It's been an interesting week. The patch saga continues with patch 3. We are almost a month into the September update and we're still patching. However, it seems to be mostly finished with some tweaks here and there. No major bugs were introduced that I'm aware of. And also this week, launched on the 10th of October, we have the Scourge, which is the Interstellar Initiative. The Interstellar Association for Agriculture has declared a state of emergency following severe crop failures across multiple worlds. To prevent food shortages and economic strife for billions of civilians, independent pilots are being asked to bring grain, pesticides, and synthetic reagents to 2 key locations, which kicks off the third initiative and storyline. There was some criticism from some quarters saying that things like this shouldn't need to be announced on the forums, but should be obvious simply from in-game. And with that, that's all the general game news, and over to branch news with Vigor and Lord Meisler.
Thank you. So, for the branch of Vigor, the Adamantine Union has had, or is on a streak right now, and has entered the 3rd expansion in a row that is now pending. We're eager to see where that goes. Otherwise, we are currently focusing in the game on bolstering the Adamantine Union control systems and solidifying the control in these systems and make it more resistant to possible attacks. Otherwise, I'm maybe a little bit going into mine territory here, but the Benjamin story arc is continuing, and the branch of mind, or in particular Kevin, has a little bit taken over the roleplay here and is integrating it actually into our ongoing main season right now, which makes it a little bit more professional, and it also has grown more complicated. So I can only encourage you to follow up on what's going on there, and I'm even more excited right now. And that's already it for Vigor. I'll hand over to Techeron, Lord Headmaster, for the branch of Sight.
Well, I'm following your story, but it would be also exciting for me if there wouldn't have been an attack on my observatory by a group of unknown individuals. Well, other than that, I've announced just before that the final date for our expedition, the 3rd annual site expedition, will be the 19th October, 9 p.m. So just in less than 1 week, we will start one of the people favorite expeditions here inside again. The target is of course the Vile Nebula group. 8 wait points have been announced. We will stay at each nebula for 1 day. You can still jump into my initiative if you want, it's no problem. We already have 8 participants and I hope to see them growing. Other than that has been everything from the branch of Sight. I hope someone will replace that destroyed windows in the main hall. Hopefully the branch of Might.
Hello, I'm the Lord Herald from the Branch of Mind, and the news for today is pretty much a continuation of last week. With the story, the main season is progressing again, and I do have some scripts finished for the main story, the simulation sessions, but I have a little bit more work to do with that. I've put it off for quite a while, but I want to start cranking out the season, especially during the Halloween season, since it's kind of a spooky time. Other news: Ramirez is working another shift in real life, and so I'm still waiting on the projected overhaul for the command tokens, so I don't have any news on that yet. So I'm just going to give that a little bit more time. For now, I'm just working on the characters. I designed a costume for the Prismatic Soldier, and I kind of want to update some of the characters I already did in 3D to be wearing that uniform. So it will pretty much just be a paint over since our tiles are pretty small, and that would be really easy to do. So I'll be working on that this week. Another surprise was, to my horror, for the first time ever, one of my commissions that I had created actually went through without any reward setup. So I'll be taking a little bit of time to actually, seeing that it was a success, I'll be looking at creating some pets that will be available that will not be useful in battle for whatever reason. People really wanted just generic pets. So I will be implementing that. And I think that covers the news for this week.
Thank you very much. First, as always, I like to go over a little bit the news. Third expansion. Is this a trend that you see continuing, Mistler, or are we starting to slow down?
I can't really say for now how long this will continue, or if we want this to continue. It depends a little bit on what's going on there. I can't even announce yet where our second expansion went to because it just went through, and I haven't had the time to go around and check if it went into the system we expected it to go to.
Was this just today? The second expansion went in.
Yep.
Okay, and the third expansion kind of launched immediately after that.
Exactly.
Yeah, we need to get that under control. I know that in the old days we actually, but this was under a completely different system. There was a plan into how they wanted to go, and I know that the old plan was to try and eventually meet up with the Prismatic Imperium sphere. But even then, I remember at the time that was projected to be like, oh, this will take about a year and a half, which is how far ahead you really have to plan with BGS if you want to, move things in a certain direction. I know the old system. I have no idea. I honestly don't know how the new system works because I haven't been involved in bubble stuff since all this came into effect.
I think that plays into it here is that they expansions used to reduce the influence of a faction in the system step by step, and this is not the case anymore.
Yeah, it's a completely different system where each system has its own little BGS going on, which is nice in some things, but obviously it makes it harder to keep track of everything. So we need to find that system. I'm sure we will. The Benjamin story, yeah, excited, scared. I know I'm scared. It's a really good story though. I mean, whenever I read it, I do enjoy it. I am a little bit worried about where he's going. I know that we had agreed on several steps like in the past, and every time we kind of went off in a different direction for whatever the story we'd planned on telling. So now Kevin's got it, and good luck.
I'm terrified. I'm going to be really honest with everybody. He's not essential anymore.
Yeah.
He almost died. The shotgun was real, and I already had the line typed out, and I'm like, I hope this doesn't go through because that's a failed plot right there.
I could read the tension in that.
But I can use this. I want people to hate Halos now. He literally just kills Ben just like that. Bloop.
Ooh.
Out of the story.
Yeah, because I mean, we always have to distinguish between the player and the character. And like in any role-playing game, traditional role-playing game, there's always the possibility that your character will die. At which point you just roll up a new one. And it is something that we've discussed with Ben in the past. I mean, it was Ben who originally raised this because in the world of the Prismatic Imperium roleplay, that's not something we've ever really considered. There's always been a kind of safety net there. Not even spoken, but kind of understood. Whereas Ben's like, take away the safety. Take away the safety.
If it's been made clear to me, especially for now on. I've played with it in the past.
Yeah.
We had a fake commander die just to demonstrate a point that I don't want players jumping in thinking they are essential and then using that to their advantage.
Yeah.
Because sure enough, yeah, you should have died here and there, and yet I'll just keep throwing one more net out for you, so you
Yeah.
have a way to escape. Like, are you sure you want to die here? But if I make it obvious and I give you a few chances and you just keep pushing it, your character is liable to actually get killed.
Yeah.
In which case, they will be muted temporarily, and we'll have a conversation with you and says, "Hey, your character's dead. We need to figure something out."
Okay, now over to Techie. We've got the Nebula expedition coming up.
Yeah. The third
Yeah.
annual side expedition. It just contains nebulas.
No, that's not Nebulas are probably some of the most dramatic and beautiful things in the game. I mean, it was definitely
Around,
the
yeah,
highlight of the
obviously.
distant worlds. I mean, it's always the thing that always produces the most screenshots as well.
Especially the Veil Nebula. I've
Yeah.
not been there yet. I want to see it.
Yep, it's a really pretty area. Nebulas generally are done really well in the game and takes advantage of current technology and graphics. It really is beautiful, especially. I mean, the way I think they upgraded the light, so the way the light plays off is also very nice in Nebula. And yeah, I really hope you get those windows fixed before I get back.
Well, I hope so, because that's the third or fourth time my windows get destroyed in roleplay. Not just in my office, but in the entirety of MR. I have
Did
no
you-
idea why every single roleplay character likes to shoot the windows.
Didn't we
That
have a
was T.
story? Didn't we have a story where somebody burst through your office with a ship at some point?
I remember someone by the name of Sinkarma breaking my windows once.
That's what it was. Yeah,
Yeah.
Karma. But that was your fault. You sent an
No.
SOS message. You
She
did.
had to escape by grenade. You cut
Yeah.
off her escape.
Yeah.
Haven't we learned that by now that
Whatever.
every action film also needs a scene where somebody jumps through the window?
I'd like to take a moment to remind people that one of the window breaks was Techron deciding to punch through bulletproof glass.
How did he do that?
He typed it out in narrative, so I guess it's
I can't
canon.
even remember that.
He used his own bare fist to punch through a window that he had upgraded so it couldn't be sniped by Gabriella Allison.
Okay.
Oh god.
On to Kevin. Story is continuing.
Yep.
Where are we in the narrative? I mean, are we?
We are in at the beginning of chapter 4,
Right.
out of the 12 chapters. And I mean, we went through the first chapters really fast, and then I got paused up when one of my friends was out of commission, and then I kind of got a little burned out, so
Yeah.
I decided to slow down there for a while and just focus on the side plots, which was the creation of two rival um, mercenary groups, which one being the Andrea group and the other being Halos. And now I'm trying to work with some surprises I didn't expect. One of them being how hostile the players are towards Andrea's group, and the other being how friendly people have been with the Halos group. It's just it's a little flipped backwards. Everybody wants to be an anti-hero, I think.
Yeah.
There's a couple things at play right now. We've got our anti-heroes working with Halos, and then we have people that are just being very cautious with the Andrew group, which they're not doing anything wrong. It was just I was surprised by it
I
in the
blame
past. Yeah,
I blame
in the
Deadpool.
past, yeah. In the past, our players have always demonstrated a zero interest in being lawful, and so like following a rogue mercenary force has never been a problem in the past, but now everybody wants to play by the rules. So they're like, "Ugh, James Marr is shipping in illegal drugs. We can't be working with this group. They're bad guys, obviously."
Is it possible to just book a different type of player now? I mean, the players haven't stayed the same.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I mean, the role play just evolves. People learn more about the lore, and you just get different people, and everybody influences everybody else.
Mhm.
So with our old members, not quite retired, but taking a back seat, um, the the direction of the narrative has definitely changed beyond what my projections are. That doesn't mean they can break the story. I just have to adapt to that. So I've
Yeah,
got plenty of tricks up my sleeves, and sometimes you just gotta flip some roles and do
no,
the
it's like the
unexpected.
players. The players have changed a lot since the first. I mean, even like one of the veterans now is Kurt, and I still remember Kurt as the new guy, um,
Yeah,
walking in to meet the Duke and things. I mean, it's and he's now like one of the old guard in terms of our role play.
yeah.
Other than there are some people like Sync and
And we
yourself
picked him
that's
up during
running it.
Halloween time, so I want our Halloween missions to have some impact because they tend to do a good job of hooking people.
And also now is Ben, is that going to be a separate story, or are you going to pull that into the
No,
main
it's
story?
it's it's already pulled into the main story. I mean,
Okay.
Ben can still do what Ben's gonna do. There's plenty of room for surprises. But he is tied pretty heavily with the Halos story right now. So it's mostly just an opportunity to really sell why Halos is here. Um, what is the goals of Monty Erickson? Because he's not a repeat of Patrick Rivers. That
Yeah.
story's already done.
Yeah.
So if people think he's just trying to rebuild what Patrick Rivers did, that is going to bring some disappointments. I'm done with that story, but he is a threat, and he's got his own agenda, and I want people to eventually catch up on what that is. And Ben is a tool to do that. But Ben can be full of surprises. He may completely disregard.
Ben is a very surprising individual.
Yeah, he might do his own thing, in which case
Yeah.
there will be consequences.
Yes. You said also, I mean, we're still waiting on the overhaul. I did listen. I mean, I wasn't in it, but I did listen to last week's show, and also I'd heard a little bit about the changes that are coming to the combat, with the new combat system to replace the smaller scale Baltic Tiger Hunt that you'd originally done, and now you're creating a full scale kind of war game for lack
Yeah,
of a better word. Yeah. So how are we going to is are the principles going to be the same as the Baltic Tiger Hunt, or is it going to be a more complex
I
system?
don't want it to be more complex because I want
Okay,
players to be able to
just
do it.
scale, just a scale
The
thing.
scale is changing, and the results are also going to scale up bigger too.
Yeah.
Consequences. I mean, there's no consequences for clearing out a zone of Baltic tigers, besides unlocking new areas you can move into.
Yeah, I suppose the Baltic Tiger Hunt is kind of like it's nice because it's like a free run. It's like a free pass to see how a war game type system would work.
Yeah, and it
Yeah,
was entirely disconnected from the main story. It
yeah,
was just, I wanted to do something fun that was easy to script because I was busy scripting, which takes me forever to do. Honestly, it's a lot of work to
yeah.
create the sessions, and then they play through in just one evening. Um, so to kind of give the players something to do, I created the Baltic Hunt, and I really liked what that generated.
Wasn't that Ben that started that?
No,
It was
but
based
Ben.
on Ben, yeah, on the kettle.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I
Oh
remember.
yeah, I used Ben as the inspiration for, really, I decided I found a really cool picture of a tiger, and I did a paint over of it and said, it'd be really cool if there were tigers that we were hunting instead of people. That way, it gives the players an easier time to write their own narrative. It gives them that freedom. And I really just wanted to build the confidence of all of our new players we were gaining, and teach them that they don't need me to do the whole story. And that worked really well. The Tigers being a force that doesn't have an agenda,
Yeah.
besides to eat, made it
It,
really
it,
easy for people to project onto them. You know,
it's kind of like the whole thing with like in the cartoons in the 80s where they'd fight robots because they're not real people.
yeah, it was pretty much one of those. I'm gonna, it really was just a test, and I'd like to make more of those in the future. Um, I apologize for not upkeeping with that story all the way to the end. We can finish it, since there's really not much left to it. It's almost completed, and I still have, think, one or two tigers to give away. I think just one. Um, I'd have to look at the map again because I know exactly where the tigers are hidden. Um, but
Yeah,
yeah, it's
we need one for Emerald. I don't want them to become extinct.
oh, they're not going to become extinct. Just maybe on Cubio.
Ah.
Yeah, I made that clear in their description that we're not wiping out an animal to extinction. I realized that would trouble quite a few people. It's like, what is the Duke doing? I know we're the Empire, and I know we've done this before, but wasn't it bad press?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
To be
especially
fair,
Side
though,
would stand against this.
yeah, I think Techie's ancestors were actually in charge of that operation.
Ooh.
yeah, um, yeah. Just as a reminder, Cubio was terraformed, so it was not habited. There are no natives on the planet. Um, and beyond knowing that it was terraformed, it really is just headcanon. Um, I project that it's only been around for about 600 years. So all of the animals that are present have been planted there. And there is a lot about Cubio that I have learned just with hanging out with the right crowd that have for some reason become super interested in Cubio and tried to decide what its soil would be made out of and what its landscapes would look like. Because I'm curious about those things. I really like
Yeah,
Cubio as a
no,
planet.
I have I've kind of looked at stuff as well. I remember I did a video a while back
Yeah.
on.
Yeah, you did a video on like the day and night cycle, how
Yeah,
it would spin. There's a lot of unique things about the planet, but
yeah,
one important detail that I intend to use in the future, is realizing that what it looks like in game matches up really well with what we'd expect for the age of the planet when you actually look at its statistics, which is kind of fun. I
yeah.
don't know if
Because I
all the
mean,
planets kind of
one
do
of the
that
things
or
about
if we got
Cubio is
lucky.
we have a really big population. I mean, I think Otto saw once. I think we're like the 30th largest planet in the Empire, which is really high up there in
Yeah.
terms of population.
It is also a
Um,
very large planet,
yeah,
and unlike our planet, it's got a lot of usable space. So it has a tremendous amount of wilderness, even with the high population. So it could double essentially the
yeah,
population.
because it was kind of like one of the things I talked about a little bit in my video. Is there would be a band, which is where most cities would appear. Would be.
Yeah,
I don't know if that's going to be reflected in game, but
no, I doubt it.
there would be a band where people would show up just because that's what the day night cycle is, and people would want to be on that kind of twilight zone.
Right. But just looking at the terrain, things that we know is that it is a young planet. It doesn't have huge mountains and deep canyons. It's got a lot of flat land that's usable for settling, and
No
still be
planet in
exploring that.
no planet in Elite Dangerous has huge canyons and huge mountains. Well, but they are pretty flat. Most of the planet they don't. Their geology is way off in terms of what you'd expect. I
For
But
the
understand.
there are
moon.
some with huge canyons.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
even then, they're not the kind of canyons that we would expect in a planet. You don't have like Grand Canyon type things. You've got
I
more.
think I've explained a little bit about this before, but it's I'm going into territory that's more like projections of 2020. But I mean, there are limitations to just having the system that Frontier is using to generate their planets right now is just tiling. It's a tiling geometric surface that wraps around into a sphere, and you can raise or lower that terrain. Like any sandbox game you might have played that lets you raise and lower terrain. It's not voxels. You can't dig caves, and you can't. The higher you raise something, like if you're making a cliff, the less detail you're going to have, because the amount of information you have to work with per mega per kilometer per kilometer is a set number of triangles. And so the more detail you throw into that kilometer, the messier it gets. In 2020, I suspect that they will layer in another system on top of what they already have. This is just what I'm hoping for.
Because there is a Planet Forge type thing. I mean, it's like what we see in the game is not actually the same as the information that they have. I mean, they have a lot more information from Stellar Forge, and they've got more information from what I call Planet Forge. I don't know if that's what they call it, but Planet Forge already has the geology, it's got the chemistry, and that's simplified in its presentation to us, even in the visual medium. But I don't know how detailed it does go in Planet Forge. I mean, how much more information do they have?
They've got the data, but it's not plugging out into any of the visual results. But that could change in the future.
Because I know one of the things that I would have talked about last week a little bit was they've found some hidden text strings and things in the game, and a lot of that's to do with things like comets and whatever. And I know that comets are already in the game's information. I mean, comets are already there in terms of like if they wanted to, they could show them on the map. They just don't have them as in-game assets that are represented, but that information is already there. I mean, if they plugged it in,
maybe they're just moving too fast for normal space.
Yeah, I don't
know what to do with that yet.
Yeah. There's something going on. I mean, it's something that they've discussed since the earliest days. That's how I know that they're already in the game. Before this string leak showed up, I already knew that they were in the game. It's something that they've discussed with us since Alpha, Gamma, when we first started looking at the systems. The comets are there, they're just not there. We already know where they are. We know what they did. They just haven't actually been plugged into the game. Yeah, but something like they're moving too damn fast would probably be part of it. So anyway, on to discussion. So discussion. I think the main thing I wanted to discuss a little bit tonight kind of ties into what we do as well, but the storyline. We've got the Interstellar Initiative Part 3, and it's called The Scourge. If people are listening and want to join in, they can join the discussion now. So where do people see this going, The Scourge? It's a nice title.
Unfortunately, I have had no time to read up on that yet.
I think the basic idea is kind of like we'd already been clued into something was going on. In fact, I'm in very deep space, paying absolutely no attention to the bubble. But the fact that multiple worlds were starting to have severe crop failures, that did strike me as a bit odd. And
I've mentioned that last week.
Yeah, I did think that you did actually. You mentioned it in the show. And I did think
I
that
do hope that Kubio is not getting the same problem.
Well, we need to see how widespread it is.
The branch of mind is in control of the market. What does our Lord Herald say? Are we in danger?
That really depends, since I haven't been following the in-game story this month at all. My question is, are the worlds that are failing right now the ones where this fertilizer was delivered?
I don't think so.
It wasn't.
Okay, so that was the fertilizer was a response to failing crops, correct?
Yep.
And is it mostly centralized in Alliance space? Am I getting that right?
The current goals of the initiative are both in Alliance space, yeah.
Okay, but it's not constrained there over the whole series, right?
It probably won't be, but we're not going to know until the output of this first phase.
Okay, so far it's all been in an Alliance space.
I forgot about the location
okay.
of the Rockforth fertilizer. I think that was more towards the center of the bubble. But I'm not totally sure right now.
So where do we think this is going? I mean, what do you think?
Hopefully not into Empire space.
I was actually surprised with them having announced reduced Gauntlet a while ago, and we had these Rockforth fertilizer and whatnot articles on the Gauntlet. I was like, huh? Why do they post these? Simply to announce the new commodity? I don't think that's it. And voila, there it is, the new Interstellar Initiative.
I thought it was done really well. It was kind of like with the criticism that I mentioned earlier during the general news. I was actually surprised by the criticism, especially given that people are saying that they don't communicate about the things they should be communicating. I thought it was done really well, and I thought that they had communicated it well in game, both initially with the news articles, so people were already beginning to understand something was up. But if they hadn't made a specific announcement before this started to roll in, people would have been upset that it hadn't been announced. Okay, this is something that they have to tell us.
I thought the criticism was more specific towards the fact that they switched from speaking in character to out of character within the same block. Am I wrong there?
From what I understood of the criticism, it was the criticism was like all of this should have been played out in game with nothing specifically said on the forums announcing a new initiative. The initiative should have just played out in game with nothing announced on the forums about it. In the sense of the story should play out in game with you'd not. I can kind of understand what they mean that in-game things should happen in game, and you don't need to pay attention to the forums or to
I
Reddit.
think the problem Frontier has is that
they
there's
can't get
not enough
anything.
people that are in game to see it. There's a lot of people that are waiting on the sidelines for an announcement to get back into the game.
Yeah, I think
So
you need
it's like
out of the game announcements that something is going on. You can't just expect everyone to only realize it in game. I mean, the Gauntlet is accessible in the browser. You don't have to log in. That facilitates it a bit, but yeah, there needs to be something special than just that.
From the criticism that I was reading, it seemed like it was centralized on the fact that it was really jarring that Frontier's like, here's some epic in-game news, and then they follow it up with, commanders, you should join in on the initiative, and then people were reacting with, it's a little awkward that the Pilots Federation is suddenly calling this an event that I need to, it just seemed a little jarring because it switches from in character to out of character, and they're like, Frontier, you know, you're the masterminds of this lore. Separate that a little bit.
Yeah.
Give us the in-game juicy details if you have to. I didn't see a problem with that. I didn't see the comments angry that they were announcing it. I saw it that in the very next paragraph they just switched real quick.
Yeah, that would be.
And there wasn't a break of any kind that says, "All right, we now for the mechanics."
I don't know. I think for me, it's just like I've always kind of been comfortable with in character crossover, also because of the way we do things here.
Yeah.
So it didn't really.
Well, I mean, we have a specific channel where we say, "Please don't role play in this role play channel." The RP discussion, so that we can have these conversations.
Yeah, that's
I
how
think
RP
we do a pretty
discussion
good
started.
job
Yeah.
of separating. The official roleplay goes in an RP channel that has a dash, not an underscore.
Yeah. No, it's also like we even with this program, some people were worried about how you guys doing it. Are you doing it in character or is it out of character? And it's like, well, it's a little bit of both, but it's mainly out of character. We can't really talk about the game from being inside our characters and things. So
yeah, I don't like
yeah.
talking in character
No, come
when
on.
I'm trying to explain something. Oh
Yeah, the
gosh.
thing is your character doesn't even fully exist.
Corwin sounds a lot like Churchill from what I remember. I did some
Yeah.
Churchill-esque videos for him a while back. It's right. I don't actually think he speaks like that, but it was like I was trying to get away from my own voice at the time. So
Well, it's inspired by that, by any
Yeah.
means.
yeah, but I ended up with Churchill. I'd probably been watching too much Yes Prime Minister or something.
Yeah, I mean, if Corwin had a voice, we would need a professional voice actor from Hollywood.
Obviously, yeah. But I do think he's got a kind of English accent. That's I've always imagined the Empire is
It's the Empire, yeah.
it's British
has-
Empire.
He has a made-up British accent as well.
Yes. So, but does anybody have any predictions where they see this story going? Why are crops failing? How do we think this is going to go?
If it was centralized in the Alliance, I'd say right off the bat, Thargoid.
Thargoids.
Yeah, the Alliance has a
It's good.
history of playing with Thargoid technology.
So, do you think it might be self-inflicted, or do you think it might be self-inflicted by accident, or do you think it might be an external Thargoids are starting to try and hit our supply chain?
You know, if I was going off old lore, I would make the assumption that it was self-inflicted. But I think Frontier are scared of going that deep now. I think they're going to keep it very simple and say, oh, obviously, it's the Thargoids doing it. This is their next form of attack. They're just going to see destruction and leave, and then come back 100 years later and hope we're all dead by now. I don't know.
I mean, if you go down the Thargoids playing with the Alliance playing with Thargoid tech route, that would also be an opportunity maybe to tie in the Orthrus, which is still something we don't know anything about.
Mm-hmm.
If I may say something, hi, I'm
Yes.
still listening here. What I think it is actually the Thargoids have come to human worlds, planted seeds for barnacles, and those seeds for the barnacles are causing the crops to
Oh,
die
that's
out.
a good idea, actually. Because
And we're going to have it's going to be interesting to find that it's like ungrown barnacles are going to be in the ground. That's my prediction.
If that's the case, how can they remain undetected?
They'll probably find them. It's probably like stealth Thargoids. Something
because
like that.
wasn't there something about how their meta alloys were
Mhm.
disappearing? So
They're going to be hard to detect. I like that theory. Because the barnacles take forever to grow, so it's entirely within reason that they have not been discovered, but they could already be pulling nutrients out of the soil.
Nutrients and minerals out of the soil to create more matter alloy and grow themselves.
Was the cloaking device in the original Elite, was that Thargoid-based technology, or did they just have a cloaking device to make the player really overpowered?
the Argent's Quest. That's I think that was based off Thargoid technology. We also had a cloaking ship in the original game, but that wasn't really tied into any lore. That was just a mission, like the kind of random space missions that they threw up.
Wait, I'm talking about original Elite.
Yeah, but that was just kind of loose. There wasn't there wasn't a lore to that. I mean, there were 8 galaxies, so they've kind that's all been retconned.
And if I remember correctly, some of the aliens that were living on these planets were sentient, like frog
there was
people.
loads of aliens. In that game.
I'm really upset they took that away from Elite Dangerous. That
I'm
broke my
not.
heart.
I am
You
not.
could just say frog people.
Yeah, no, I'm not even joking. They were frog people.
Well, they were all like randomly generated. So you had fierce, shy frogs.
Yeah. I remember.
I am not disappointed they went away from that. I think there's been too much of that in other games.
But what about the parking meters? Did they take all the parking meters out too?
Yes, they did. No, I was actually really happy with the direct. I was surprised when Elite 2 came out because I was there. I mean, I was there in like the 80s. I played the original game, and I was waiting desperately for Elite 2. And then when Frontier came out, I was. I mean, also when Frontier came out, I was kind of really starting to get into science and stuff. So I was just flabbergasted. I was blown away with, and it was just such a completely different direction. I was happy they put in the old worlds, which is what is now the Alliance, but the old worlds was originally like on the frontier, with Lave and stuff, Lave and Daiso, and they had like a small core of the worlds from the starting area in the original game, and that's we still have that today. That stayed with
Is
us.
Earth in the original game?
No.
No.
In fact, that was my original mission. My original mission in my original playthrough back in the 80s was to find Earth, and I was sure it was in one of the galaxies. So I thought I had to like go through galaxy. You can only get from one galaxy to another with a one-shot galactic hyperdrive. So you had to earn a lot of money to get that, and then use that to jump from one galaxy to the next.
So the way it's always been explained to me was that Earth was about 56 light years from Lave. Originally, I thought that's the case. I have no idea if that's still true. But it was that you basically were in Galecop space in the original Elite. Because of that, you couldn't go into non-Galecop space like the Federation and Empire.
Yeah. No, that's all Dave Hughes. That's his.
Oh, I know.
That's his
Sadly.
background stuff. Yeah. No, I love Dave. He's a good friend. But that was kind of to wangle it back in. It's a beautiful word, that wangle. But it was to wangle it back into the original game, into the lore. But I've always felt it was kind of like shoehorning it. One way I always kind of looked at it was like I'm a big fan of Red Dwarf, which is like a BBC humor show about guys traveling through space. And basically, between each season, like between season 1 and season 2, season 2, season 3, season 3, season 4, there's just so many big differences between each season, and like there's just so many problems. I headcanoned it that each season took part in a separate but parallel universe. So you didn't have to try and make them work together. There'd be some things that would cross over and a lot of things that didn't. So that was always kind of how I headcanoned it. And it's the same with the Elite games. I think Elite exists in its own completely separate universe. Frontier and First Encounters are more or less in the same universe. And Elite Dangerous is in another universe as well. Similar.
This is a lot like the Die Hard series.
Yeah. So it's kind of like, for me, they're parallel but similar universes, but I don't expect full crossover. Although I think one aspect of the original game's crossover has been kind of confirmed through the Jameson logs, which is he's the guy that delivered the virus that made the Thargoids go away.
Well, yeah, they brought in the whole Thargoid story became canon from the old games.
Yeah, from Jameson's logs, that's kind of that. What's it called? The mycod virus.
Mycloid.
Yeah.
A lot of people, for some reason, the information got out there that everything related to Thargoids was retconned, and I just don't know where that information came from.
I think some of it comes from Drew, and it's not a case of it's retconned. It's that nothing is confirmed unless it appears in Elite Dangerous. So,
okay,
if you think something is because it only occurred in Frontier or Tier 2, then you can't rely on that information until it's confirmed in the game. So a lot of it's confirmed.
It's kind of like the new Star Wars lore as well in that way. Then
let's not go down that road.
What Elite Dangerous's story has, what their lore is saying is that anything from the old games is a legend.
Yeah.
And then when you find evidence of elements of that, being real, you find out, okay, there is some truth grounded in there. But if you treated all the old Elite games as more like a myth or a legend or a recreation of what actually happened, it becomes easier to tie into Elite Dangerous.
Yeah, I think the only exception with that is the original game, because it's just too incredibly wacky and different. But
as legends tend to be. But like, yeah, Jameson was real. Turns out that Thargoids actually had warred with humanity before.
Yeah.
And that one, if you were paying attention to lore, that was always evident. But a lot of people assumed that humanity had never actually run into Thargoids yet, and that it was just a myth. When in reality, it was a cover up.
And that,
Mycloid virus happened. Thargoid war did happen with
I
Lave.
think. I mean, if people had read the novels that came out with launch, it was clear. I mean, there's two novels that make it clear that a lot of what happened in the original games, and especially in First Encounters. First Encounters is more tied into this than Frontier itself was. First Encounters, which is Elite 3, deals a lot more with the return of the Thargoids and this kind of stuff. So a lot of the novels kind of refer to those things, and the novels are more or less canon. There are some issues, but they are more or less canon. So I always kind of knew that the Thargoid War was real. I've always been kind of surprised that it became legend because it's not that long ago.
Yeah, but look at how many worlds there are and the breakdown in communication. Instantaneous communication was not a thing until recently. That's why we still have missions to deliver data packages. If you don't know what that is the collection of data that you'd usually send over the internet being shipped from one star system to the other because it's cheaper than beaming it in real time, which is what I call the Quantec network.
Yeah, we are very privileged commanders, aren't we?
Oh yeah. We have instantaneous message communication across the
over
galaxy.
the entire galaxy. Yeah,
Right. That's not a given for everybody.
I mean, that's one of those things that I don't want to look at too closely because I know it would break down. Okay,
There's some hand waving.
Another thing I wanted to touch on is the effect of stories, and this kind of ties in a little bit to Frontier Communications, although honestly I don't know what they can do differently. One of the biggest criticisms I always see leveled against Frontier is the accusation that what we do doesn't mean anything. I know for a fact that that's not true because I used to speak with Michael Brooks about this kind of stuff and the frustrations that people had, which is they felt like the story is on rails and what we didn't influence things. I mean, it's already been a criticism I've seen leveled against the current Interstellar Initiative thing. Whereas because through our actions, we choose one specific outcome, then the other outcomes are closed off. I know for a fact that the Throne War was decided through power play, which is something that most people that played power play didn't realize. And also the Emperor's Dawn actually had a massive story planned, but they hadn't actually planned that the players would shut them down so damn fast. And every time Emperor's Dawn showed up, the players would shut them down. So we closed off that storyline by reacting to it and by siding against them in all the community goals. Also with the Throne War, they had actually expected, everybody knows this by now, but they'd expected Patrius to win. They had not counted on the two princesses being so popular. There was.
They should have counted on our princess.
Yeah.
Where did ALD come from? They're like, well, shoot, we actually need to make a legitimate story out of this.
Yeah, they did not expect. They did not expect the princesses. They kind of, even if you look at the original trailer, the first guy up is Patrius, and he looks cool. So
they hyped Patrius, and he just never was popular for some reason.
Yeah,
it's because he's not an anime princess.
Exactly.
No, but he is an anime character in his own right. I mean, come on.
That is true. Yeah.
But he's not a princess.
If people vote for a power that just looks good, they're stupid.
He perfectly represents your average Imperial role player.
Yeah.
From the first 2 years of this game.
Yeah, he does.
There's a lot of Fed capital ship.
Who is your friend, Techie? Elisar. Eleanor.
Of course, the true emperor.
Yeah, Eleanor perfectly represents an Imperial role player.
Yeah.
We
I-
don't.
No, I'm actually one of the only people who followed Aisling for a reason that had nothing to do with her being a princess and nothing to do with her being anti-slavery, which for me was because she was the daughter of Harry. That's why I followed her. I mean, and also I misunderstood something. So I followed her because I made a mistake. So
You clicked the wrong button.
That was the best mistake you've ever made.
Yeah.
no, because I knew that Arissa was the illegitimate daughter, apparently, of the Emperor, and as far as I was aware, Aisling was the daughter of Harry, and the contention was Harry's been kind of taken out of the line of succession, so therefore his daughter has been taken out. So that's why Arissa had a claim, but it was unclear which of the two was the favorite. She was the daughter of Harry, but she was the daughter of the Emperor. So I thought, well, she's the daughter of Harry, who, in my opinion, should be the Emperor anyway, even if he is crazy, because
Right.
he's the son. So we should have Aisling, and that was my thought process on the thing. It wasn't until much later that I learned that Aisling is also an illegitimate daughter. So we had two illegitimate daughters. We had the illegitimate daughter of the Emperor and the illegitimate daughter of the son of the Emperor. So at which point, I honestly, if I'd known that, I don't know which one I would have chosen. But it was, I didn't know that Aisling was actually illegitimate. I thought she was the legitimate daughter of Harry, which is why I favored her.
Yeah. When did that news that she was illegitimate come
I
out?
don't
Was
know,
that
I
not
don't-
during the Throne War?
No, I think it was possibly always there, but nobody noticed. I mean, I honestly never noticed that she was illegitimate. I knew that Arissa was because she'd sprung up from nowhere, whereas because Aisling had always been there, I assumed that she was legitimate, but apparently it was wrong. She's the illegitimate.
Nah, it's royals. They always have these illegitimate things.
Yeah, but the problem is in
They
this
just come
case
out of nowhere.
there were all these illegitimate kids, but no legitimate kids, and the only legitimate kid was insane, and I thought he should be emperor anyway. I mean, I was all for Harry. I mean, if
Yeah.
Harry had been in the throne war, I'd have backed him.
What?
So what you're saying is we should dispose what's her name and put Harry back on the throne.
No.
It's too late now.
Yes,
She's the
yes.
Emperor.
The
You're
emperor.
shocking me.
No,
I'm hearing
the
a
emperor.
yes.
The emperor is Arissa, and we're all for the empire.
I hope so.
During the throne war, all the gloves were off, as far as I was concerned. So I did everything. I played dirty. I was as sneaky as I could be. But then, as soon as Arissa was crowned, that was it. Over.
You just gave up, huh?
Yep. That's what you do during a throne war. When somebody wins, you just stand back. That's it. Fine. She's the emperor. Let's get on with it.
This is the Empire.
Yep. We had our fun. Now let's get down to business. And I think with that, I think we've discussed everything we really need to discuss today.
Do you want to? Do we want to talk about 2020?
Yes.
No more destroyed windows, please.
Wait, do you want to? I mean, are you 2020 or the games?
The game's 2020.
No, we'll save that for another time.
Okay.
Yeah, that's
Wait,
a big
wait.
discussion. That's a big discussion. 20.
I
What
have
is
nothing for
2020?
2020 for me.
You what?
Oh, that's the next big update.
Oh,
Yes,
is in
I-
2020?
Hmm
Yeah.
I thought it was going to be in like December again.
of 2020. So we're still
No,
got
no,
another-
there will be. We're talking about the next paid season of expansions.
Oh, okay.
The one that everyone at Frontier's working on.
Yeah,
We'll save that for another time then, because
yeah. So we've got another update coming in December, which is fleet carriers. Let's hope that actually comes in December and they manage to get everything working really quickly.
Maybe we get a test server.
And maybe we get a test server.
There's
Yeah.
one last question I have.
Oh, take it, sure.
Lord Warden and Lord Harold, do you already have an idea how you're going to name your carrier? I want to make a competition for the best name.
I haven't thought about it at all so far.
I'm gonna keep mine a secret.
Yeah.
I want to make a deal with somebody.
Mine is secret sounds like a weird name.
I won't be doing a weird name. It'll just be offensive.
Just call it the Vector's approach.
I think you give Vector way too much credit.
Mhm.
I mean, it is the best news source.
You must be like their top contributor.
That might be a
No.
cool carrier name, Branch of Vector.
When can I finally get an event where I storm his office and drag him out?
You
Whatever
have to
you-
be his top contributor. That's the only explanation.
Yeah. I mean, you just love all this free publicity, Techie.
Yep.
I mean,
he
I've
likes the
been-
spotlight.
I've actually been tempted to like try and because I know a while ago he wrote something about Trinity. If he starts to go off on the branch of Vigor, I would like to make an alliance with Tech to outright murder him.
Yeah.
Oh,
Ben is
I'd
dangerous.
accept immediately.
I'm elite dangerous.
Oh.
Yeah,
And
Sounds
on
just like
that,
Vector.
at
and
the
on that
moment
note,
you're stranded.
Vector
that
already
note-
did that joke.
and on that note, let's give this show its ending. Thank you, everybody, for joining. I've been Jeff Ryan. I've been your host. Please join us again next week. Good night.
Bye.